Hello and welcome to Charter Local Edition Northwest. Today we're in Florence, Oregon, covering the Oregon Coast Economic Summit. My guest today is Oregon Senator Ted Ferrioli. Thank you for joining us.
Dana, thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being here. And you are wearing a beautiful neck piece you just received.
Thank you very much. This is a gift from Tribal Chairman Bob Garcia. He made similar gifts to other members of the Legislative Commission on Indian Services, and these are handcrafted. They feature dentalia shells, which are a trade item that have of tremendous historic importance in the intertribal trading that happened in the years before Oregon was even a territory. So there's a piece of coral and these wonderful shells, and it just is supposed to evoke the idea of the coastal communities when people see these.
And part of the reason that you're here is to support the tribal activities.
Yes, I'm a member of the Legislative Commission on Indian Services, which was a product of then Senator Victor D. Atiyeh, who became governor of the state of Oregon. Victor Atiyeh's legacy is to create a venue for the 9 treaty tribes to interface with the legislature in the Legislative Commission on Indian Services. It's our sounding board to better understand tribal sovereignty and how a nation can exist within a nation or a nation within a state. So,
what are the big advances we've seen for the tribes in recent years?
Well, most of it has to do with restoration of the tribes as recognized tribes. Some of it has to do with restoration of tribal homelands, and all of it has to do with economic development for rural communities. So the tribes have really become economic engines within the communities where they exist. They deliver healthcare, education, administrative services. In some places they're forest products manufacturers. In other places they have recreational facilities like casinos and resorts. All of these things tend to support the tribes, but they also feed back economic development into the community at large.
Oh, yes.
So it's actually Oregon's #1 destination have become the tribal lands and the Indian casinos.
So really they're a big draw.
Huge in the economic development future for Oregon.
Well, and for Oregon and so many other communities, economic development, especially in the rural areas, is so critical.
We have some challenges. If you were to look at employment figures, you'd notice that on tribal lands, unemployment can be up to 50%. In rural areas,
worse than the Great Depression.
It is. In rural areas, it's in double digits. Really what needs to happen is Oregon needs to address some of the chronic problems that exist in rural areas related to land use, transportation, communication, and other issues.
What are some of the solutions that you're working on using your position as senator?
Well, really to try to get people to understand that when Oregon rural communities thrive, it puts less demand on services and the economy of urban areas. So when we tell people we're all in this together, if we have high unemployment and a great need for services in rural Oregon, and urban Oregon is thriving, we have to make a transfer of resources. That shouldn't be a drag on the overall economy.
So when everyone thrives, it reduces the tax burden, everyone rises.
That's exactly right.
Senator, thank you. We appreciate your time. Thank you for your conversation.
Dan, it's been a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much.
And thank you for watching. This is Charter Local Edition Northwest in Florence, Oregon.